guys, this is the update you've been waiting for, but definitely not the update you expected. But first, a quick catch up. So 3 years of trying for a baby finally ended when I got pregnant, and then we lost the baby. And just 2 weeks later, my husband convinced me to let his pregnant colleague move into our house because apparently she had nowhere else to go. At first, I thought we were helping somebody through the worst time in her life, but instead they started acting more and more like a couple. He took her to her first baby scan. He sat holding her hand. He spent every evening with her whilst I sat alone. And then one day I came home and found them turning my baby's nursery into hers. And when I confronted them, my husband told me that if I couldn't handle it, I should leave. My own house. The house I bought years before I even met him. And I was so broken that I did actually leave. And then things got even worse. My husband somehow convinced my own mum that I was mentally unstable. He secretly planted cameras around the house and recorded me during some of my worst moments of my grief after the miscarriage. The more upset I became, the more evidence they seemed to have that I was losing my mind. Eventually, I started questioning myself. I genuinely wondered if grief had broken something inside of me, that I was seeing things that weren't actually there. Until one night, I snuck back into my own house and found my husband and his colleague sleeping together in my bed. And I took his phone. And what I found changed absolutely everything. The pregnancy was fake. The bump was fake. The scans were fake. The entire thing was a lie. They had been having an affair for over a year. And together they were building a case to convince everybody around me that I wasn't mentally well enough to control my own finances or my own house. And the last update ended when I discovered all of this and decided not to tell a single person. Because for the first time since losing my baby, I finally had the upper hand. So here's what happened. I let them think they were winning. My mum completely sided with them. My husband carried on playing the role of the loving, concerned husband. His colleague carried on pretending to be the pregnant victim. And whilst they were busy congratulating themselves, I was quietly collecting evidence and preparing to destroy their entire plan. You will not believe this next file. So one evening I'm watching the Ring doorbell footage, and at this point, if I'm completely honest with you, I'd become obsessed with checking it because after being told for so long that I couldn't trust my own memories, the recordings were the only thing that made me feel sane. And that's when I saw it. My husband left for work, and about 20 minutes later, a car pulls up outside my house. A man gets out that I don't recognise. He walks up to the front door. She opens it, and before he even stepped inside, she kissed him. Not a quick peck. I'm talking about a proper kiss. The woman who had helped destroy my marriage by cheating with my husband was cheating on my husband. And over the next few weeks, I watched this mystery man come and go several times whenever my husband wasn't home. And eventually, I managed to find out who he was. And after a lot of internal debate, I contacted him. We met for coffees, and ladies, when I tell you, this man looked like he'd been handcrafted by the gods themselves. I am not exaggerating. I was genuinely flabbergasted that she even gave my husband a second glance when she had the option of this guy. But then I remembered how much my assets are worth. But anyway, this poor guy was completely blindsided. He had absolutely no idea my husband even existed. So I showed him the screenshots. The affair, the fake pregnancy, the messages, the plans about my house, absolutely everything. And suddenly, two of the people she had been lying to were sitting across from each other comparing notes. Meanwhile, my husband still thought I was falling apart. What he didn't know was that my lawyer was quietly building a case. What she didn't know was that her other boyfriend knew everything. And what neither of them knew was that their entire plan was just about to implode. A few weeks later, my husband asked to meet. Apparently, he wanted to discuss my future. How thoughtful. He genuinely believed he had convinced everybody I wasn't capable of managing my own affairs. So I smiled. I agreed. And I turned up exactly on time with my lawyer. And would you believe his lawyer was there too? I let my husband talk. I let him tell me how much he loved me. I let him tell me how worried he was about me. I let him explain how he only wanted what was best for me. And then I let him present all of his evidence of me being the unstable head case he almost made me believe I was. And right when he got to the end of his neatly organised little presentation, there was a knock at the door. His mistress, who he introduced as our lodger, there as a witness to my unstable behaviour, there to double down on his point whilst also telling me how deeply she cared for my well-being and just wanted what was best for me, and that she truly believed my husband having control of my finances and assets would mean I'd finally get the help I desperately needed. I still said nothing. I just nodded. And then I slid a folder across the table. He smiled for about 3 seconds until he opened it. The affair. The fake pregnancy, the hidden cameras, the messages mocking my miscarriage, the plans for my house, every single thing. I watched the colour drain from his face, and then I handed him divorce papers. And before he could even process that, I showed him the Ring camera screenshots of his precious soulmate kissing another man behind his back. The look on that man's face was priceless. He signed the divorce papers in a beat and stormed straight out of that room with his mistress following behind him, begging for a chance to explain herself. And once everything was wrapped up between myself and our lawyers, I strolled out to see them still arguing in the foyer. But I didn't have time to stop and listen. I had that godly sculpted piece of crumpet of a man waiting by the doors for me to whisk me off for an evening of sushi and cocktails to celebrate. And for those wondering, yes, she absolutely did see us together, and I'm sure she's probably still picking her jaw up from the ground as we speak. And the best part is, if my husband went for a divorce like a normal person when he knew he wanted her instead of me, he would have gotten 50% of everything I own. But thanks to his infidelity, he got nothing. Not a penny. And you can bet your bottom dollar the locks were changed and their scraggly belongings were down the charity shop before they even had time to understand what just happened in front of their very eyes.